المقاومة لا تستطيع أن تقف مكتوفة الأيدي ويكشف ظهرها.
ليس حزبا لبنانيا ولكنه فرقة إيرانية.
Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Future TV. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's top stories. Lebanese President Michel Sleiman calls on Hezbollah leader Said Hassan Nasrallah to withdraw his fighters from Syria in order not to further implicate Lebanon in the country's ongoing violence. Syria's opposition National Coalition launches an urgent appeal to rescue 1,000 wounded civilians from the town of Al-Qusayr. And UN Chief Ban Ki-moon says he is against global powers supplying Syria with weapons and presses both opposing sides to find a political solution to prevent threats to regional stability. Lebanese President Michel Sleiman has called on Hezbollah's leader Said Hassan Nasrallah to withdraw his fighters from Syria in order not to further implicate Lebanon in the ongoing violence raging in the neighboring country. In an interview with Future Television, Sleiman said the resistance shouldn't be involved in the Golan Heights or the rest of Syria. Earlier this month, Hezbollah's leader said his group will receive an advanced weaponry from Syria and support the liberation of the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. He also vowed that his party and the Syrian regime will emerge victorious in the fighting in Syria after Hezbollah had pressed a military campaign against the rebel-held city of Al-Qusayr. On another note, the president reiterated his refusal to extend the parliament's term, yet he explained that he will not oppose extending the parliament's mandate for a short period of time in order to give more time for discussions on the electoral laws. Reports say Gulf Arab states will consider placing Lebanon's Hezbollah on its terror list. Al-Rai Daily says Bahrain will task foreign ministers of the Six-Nation Gulf Cooperation Council to discuss placing Hezbollah on the terror list at a meeting in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on Sunday. Bahrain currently presides the GCC, which includes Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The paper did not say whether this referred to the party as a whole or just its military wing, whose men are fighting alongside government troops in a fierce battle to retake the Syrian town of Qusayr from rebels. The ministers will also discuss Gulf security, continued Iranian threats, especially the busting of Iranian spy rings in a number of GCC states. Kuwait has already convicted several Iranians and one of its own citizens for operating a spy ring for Tehran, while Saudi Arabia and Bahrain have said they busted cells working for the Islamic Republic. Independent March 14 lawmakers have expressed regret over attempts to extend the parliament's term, considering that it opposes the democratic system and the principle of rotation in power. The MPs gathered at MP Boutros Hadib's residence said the security situation, the cabinet and parliament's inability to agree on an electoral law compel the forced extension of the legislator's term, which opposes the democratic norms. They pointed out that the extension obliges the political powers to facilitate the formation of the cabinet and to halt all the preventive conditions by the March 8 alliance. The MPs warned the situation in the country could lead to a constitutional vacuum, which threatens the state and its stability. Lawmakers have agreed to deal positively with any consensus reached by the rival parties to avert any negative repercussions on the country. Although parliamentary elections appear to be headed for a postponement, the number of declared female candidates has risen substantially. This is according to an alliance of activists who said the Women's Alliance for Parliaments 2013 said that 43 women had registered for the polls out of a total of 706 candidates. The group said that in a comparison between 2009 and 2013, the numbers confirmed that women are energetic and insistent on taking part in political life. Only 12 women presented their candidacies in the last parliamentary round. A large fire broke out in Sidon's landfill, sending black smoke into the skies over the southern port city. A civil defense volunteer said the fire, which broke out shortly after midday, trapped a civil defense team on top of the dump. Fellow workers managed to rescue them shortly afterwards, and at least 10 fire trucks are battling to put out the fire. Sources say some drivers had to abandon their trucks when winds caused the fires to surge. City officials say Sidon's massive landfill that falls into the sea poses a health and safety risk to the city and the surrounding waters. Two men carrying $1.2 million in cash from Beirut airport were robbed at dawn. The Daily Star says gunmen in a Jeep Cherokee and a Kia SUV intercepted Ali Kandil and Fuad Matar in their Nissan Sunny on the airport highway and forced them to drive to Hat Tahrik in Beirut's southern suburbs. A source said the robbed men said the cash came from a Lebanese person in Africa. It is unclear how the money was carried by the two men or how it cleared airport security. Syria's opposition National Coalition launched an urgent appeal to rescue 1,000 wounded civilians from the town of El-Qusayr, which government troops and Hezbollah fighters are battling to retake from rebels. The coalition cited an acute shortage of doctors, paramedics and first aid kits and said this must trigger international relief organizations to respond immediately and save the wounded citizens. They urged the Red Cross and Red Crescent to enter the city, rescue the innocent civilians and provide them with the necessary protection. Reports say hundreds of civilians have reportedly been killed in El-Qusayr and thousands could be trapped. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad says his country will respond to any Israeli attack on its soil. In an interview to be aired by Al-Manar television, owned by Hezbollah, Assad said he has already received the first shipment of an advanced Russian air defense system and will soon get the rest of the S-300 missile system. His remarks were first published by Al-Akhbar newspaper today. Israel had suggested its military might strike the Russian S-300 missiles. Meanwhile, Syrian opposition members meeting in the Turkish city of Istanbul have set preconditions on entering international peace talks scheduled for next month in Geneva, mainly a political process that will lead to Assad's ouster. The Syrian National Coalition will convene to see how they can take part in peace talks being brokered by Russia and the United States to end the ongoing conflict. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon says he is against global powers supplying Syria with weapons and presses both sides in the civil war to find a political solution to prevent threats to regional stability. Ban's comments came during a news conference at the UN headquarters in New York after the European Union decided to lift the arms embargo on Syria, and Russia said it will deliver an advanced S-300 air defense system to the Damascus government despite U.S., French and Israeli objections.
On this Hezbollah issues, we are very much concerned that many actors are now involved in this, and my strong message is that fighting must stop immediately, so that the political process can begin. That's the best way at this time. My position on this issue has been clear and consistent. I have been urging all the parties who have influence to both sides, they should urge both sides to stop fighting. And there is no shortage of arms in both sides. Just providing arms to either side will not help this process. There is no such military solution in this case. I think only a political process can resolve this issue sustainable way.
Minister Sergei Lavrov has accused the opposition Syrian National Coalition of seeking to thwart peace efforts by making President Bashar al-Assad's exit a condition for participating in a proposed international conference. The opposition coalition says it will only take part in international peace talks and the United States and Russia are trying to organize if a deadline is set for a settlement that forces Assad to leave power. Lavrov insists, however, that his exit cannot be a precondition for a political solution. After talks in Paris on Monday, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Sergei Lavrov said they will do their utmost to bring Syria's warring parties to the table as fighting intensified and new allegations of chemical weapons use surfaced. Coming up next, we'll tell you all about Cactus, a digital alternative to a personal assistant. That and more after the break. Welcome back. A Tunisian activist with the women's topless protest group Femen have been on trial for illegal possession of pepper spray a day after 3 Europeans bared their breasts in the capital of Tunis. Feman said the young women arrested outside the central courthouse, 2 French and 1 German, would at midday appear before the public prosecutor, who will decide if they will be charged. Their protest was the first of its kind in the Arab world and shocked some in Tunisia. The demonstrators showed their breasts to support a Tunisian member of this group, Amina Tyler, who was arrested in Kairouan on May the 19th for allegedly carrying a canister of pepper spray. She had posed topless pictures of herself online in a Femen-inspired protest in March. A car bomb and several roadside blasts have exploded in neighborhoods across Baghdad, killing 10 people at least in the latest in more than a month-long surge in the attacks. Police sources say a parked car went off in Baghdad's central district of Karada as a police vehicle were driving by, killing 1 civilian and wounding 9 people, including 2 policemen. The blast was the second to tear through the area in less than an hour. In the first blast, 2 people were killed and 13 others were wounded. A number of cars and shops in the area were also damaged. At least 4 killed in another neighborhood in Baghdad in a similar attack. A U.S. drone strike has killed the number 2 of the Pakistani Taliban, Wali Rahman, in the North Waziristan region. This is according to security officials in Pakistan, who said Rahman, who had a $5 million U.S. government bounty on his head, died along with at least 5 others when 2 missiles were fired on a house early. 2 officials said their informants in the field saw Rahman's body, while a third said intelligence authorities had intercepted communications between fighters saying Rahman had been killed. A spokesman for the Pakistani Taliban, however, has denied the reports. The Pakistani Taliban is a separate entity allied to the Afghan Taliban, known as Tehreek al-Taliban Pakistan. They have launched repeated attacks against Pakistani military and civilians. And now for news around the world in brief. Disgruntled Lisbon commuters have struggled to get to work as metro workers in the Portuguese capital of Lisbon staged a 24-hour strike. The city's metro services shut down as workers protested against the merger of city transportation and against salary cuts as part of a national day of protests. Commuters said the walkout was having a severe impact on those trying to get to work. No minimum services were scheduled for the strike. A man charged with the murder of a British soldier on a London street has left court in a police van. Police charged 22-year-old Michel Adebowale late on Wednesday evening with the murder of drummer Lee Rigby, a 25-year-old serving soldier. He was brought to Westminster Magistrates Court in central London this morning, where he was remanded in custody to appear at Britain's Central Criminal Court, the Old Bailey, on Monday. Adebowale was charged shortly after leaving hospital, where he had spent the last week after being shot by police. Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard had a sandwich thrown at her while visiting Leenham High School in Canberra. While being greeted by a crowd of school children, a student threw the salami sandwich at the Prime Minister, hitting her on the arm. Gillard said the student must have thought she was hungry. It is the second time this month that a sandwich was thrown at her. The first was a veggie sandwich while she was visiting a school in Queensland on May the 8th. 3 Lebanese engineers have come up with a digital alternative to personal assistant, Cactus. It provides users with guidance on the necessary steps required to accomplish the tasks they wish to do. The tasks available on the application range from completing official documents and visa applications to diet schedules and cooking recipes. Nadi Shmeili, Bassam Saif, and Leah Dunya are the brains behind the smartphone app that has become very popular in Lebanon. Inspired by their ongoing research and responding to their users' suggestions on social media, the developers of the application add about 20 new schedules every day. Leah Dunya explains they came up with the idea of Cactus when they wanted to apply to the syndicate of engineers and didn't know what were the necessary documents required for the application. The developers are optimistic about promoting their application at a global level. According to their Facebook page, Cactus has been ranked among the top 5 most popular iPhone free applications. This marks the end of our bulletin for today, and now for a reminder of our headlines. Lebanese President Michel Sleiman calls on Hezbollah's leader Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah to withdraw his fighters from Syria in order not to further implicate Lebanon in the country's ongoing violence. Syria's opposition National Coalition launches an urgent appeal to rescue 1,000 wounded civilians from the town of Al-Qusayr. And finally, UN Chief Ban Ki-moon says he is against global powers supplying Syria with weapons and presses both opposing sides to find a political solution to prevent threats to regional stability. Those are today's headlines from Future TV, live from Beirut. Catch us again tomorrow, same time, for more of the world's top stories. Have a great evening.
المقاومة لا تستطيع أن تقف مكتوفة الأيدي ويكشف ظهرها.
ليس حزبا لبنانيا ولكنه فرقة إيرانية.